Fired by a ruthless manager for her disability, Emily thinks her world is crumbling. Until the quiet customer she served long time reveals her identity. But before we start, if you guys like this story, please comment below and subscribe to Story Store. Please hit the bell icon. Thank you. Rain lashed against the restaurant's windows, the sound mingling with the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation. Emily's hand trembled as she struggled to balance a tray laden with steaming plates. Her left leg, braced with a sleek, black orthotic, ached with each step. Still, she forced a smile, weaving through the crowded dining room. "Table 7, get a move on," barked Rick, the manager, his voice slicing through the din. "You're slowing us down." Heat crept up Emily's neck, but she bit back a retort. She needed this job. The tips paid for her physical therapy, and after months of rejection, finding work had felt like a victory. She wouldn't let Rick take that from her. As she reached table 7, a woman in a tailored navy blazer sat alone, her sharp eyes flicking from a tablet to the chaotic scene unfolding around her. Emily recognized her. A regular who tipped well and spoke little. Emily's journey to the restaurant had been marked by struggle and resilience. A devastating car accident left her with a permanent disability, forcing her to relearn how to walk and navigate a world filled with skepticism. Interview after interview ended in rejection, employers focusing only on her limp instead of her determination. When Rick offered her the job, she saw it as a hard-won victory, a chance to prove herself despite the odds. Working under Rick, however, was a constant challenge. His relentless demands and harsh criticism created a tense environment for the entire staff. Emily learned to suppress the pain in her leg, moving faster despite the strain. She endured Rick's biting remarks, knowing that speaking up might cost her the job she desperately needed. Her colleagues sympathized, but stayed silent, unwilling to risk becoming Rick's next target. Emily resolved to survive each shift, no matter how hard it became. The woman in the navy blazer, always composed and observant, intrigued Emily. She never caused trouble and always left a generous tip. While most customers barely noticed the staff, this woman seemed to notice everything. Emily often wondered who she was. There was an air of authority about her that set her apart. Occasionally, their eyes would meet, and Emily sensed a quiet understanding, though they never exchanged more than polite greetings. Despite her curiosity, Emily focused on her work, never imagining how significant this enigmatic customer would become in her life. One particularly hectic evening, the restaurant buzzed with impatient diners. Emily's leg throbbed painfully, but she pushed through, determined not to let the discomfort slow her down. As she reached for a tray of drinks, a sudden spasm shot through her leg, causing her to stumble. The tray tipped, sending glasses shattering to the floor. Gasps rippled through the room. Rick stormed over, his face flushed with anger. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he barked. "You're a disaster waiting to happen." Humiliation burned through Emily, but she clenched her fists, refusing to cry. "It was an accident," she said firmly. "Accident or not, you're a liability," Rick sneered. "Clean up your mess and get out of my sight." As Emily knelt to pick up the shards of glass, tears threatened to spill. The room seemed to blur around her, but through the chaos she caught sight of the woman in the navy blazer watching intently. There was something in her gaze, a flicker of empathy and resolve. Emily swallowed her pride, finished cleaning up, and returned to her duties, unaware that her life was about to change forever. The next day, Rick summoned Emily to his office, his expression as cold as the sterile decor. "I'm letting you go," he said flatly. Emily's heart plummeted. "Why?" she demanded, fighting to keep her voice steady. Poor performance, Rick sneered. I'm not running a charity here. Emily's throat tightened. You're firing me because I have a disability. Rick leaned back, smugness etched into his features. Call it whatever you want. Fury and despair clashed within Emily, but she refused to crumble. This isn't right, she said, her voice trembling with conviction. Rick shrugged. Life's not fair. Now get your stuff and go. With her dignity intact, Emily walked out of the office, her mind racing with uncertainty. The weight of injustice pressed heavily on her chest, but she knew this wasn't the end of her story. As Emily exited the restaurant, the cool evening air stung her flushed face. She paused, struggling to steady her breath. Emily, a calm voice called. She turned to see the woman in the navy blazer approaching. Are you okay? The woman asked, concern flickering in her sharp eyes. Not really, Emily admitted, her voice raw. I just got fired. The woman's expression hardened. On what grounds? Rick said I'm too slow, Emily said bitterly, but it's because of my leg. The woman nodded thoughtfully. I've seen how hard you work. You don't deserve this. Emily frowned. Why do you care? The woman extended a sleek business card. Charlotte Hayes, CEO of Hayes Hospitality Group. Call me. Emily blinked in shock. You own the restaurant? Charlotte smiled faintly. I do, and I want to hear your story. Hope flickered in Emily's chest as she accepted the card. Perhaps this wasn't the end, but a new beginning. The next morning, Emily sat nervously across from Charlotte in her elegant office. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, highlighting the room's sleek design. Start from the beginning, Charlotte urged gently. Emily recounted everything. The car accident, the long road to recovery, the countless job rejections, and finally, Rick's harsh treatment. Charlotte listened intently, her expression unwavering. When Emily finished, Charlotte leaned forward. Rick's behavior is unacceptable, she said firmly. I built this company on the values of inclusivity and respect. What you've described goes against everything we stand for. Emily's eyes widened. Does that mean you'll do something? Charlotte nodded. Absolutely. Rick won't get away with this. Relief washed over Emily. For the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of hope. Charlotte's determination was a beacon of justice. A week later, Emily was invited back to the restaurant for a staff meeting. Tension hung in the air as employees gathered, whispering nervously. Charlotte stood at the front, her presence commanding. Effective immediately, Rick is no longer part of this company, she announced. Gasps and murmurs spread through the room. We have zero tolerance for discrimination. Emily stood at the back, stunned. Charlotte caught her eye and offered a reassuring nod. After the meeting, Charlotte approached Emily. I owe you an apology, she said. You shouldn't have had to endure that. Thank you, Emily said, gratitude filling her voice. How would you like a new role, one where your hard work is truly valued? Charlotte asked. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. I'd love that. As she walked out of the restaurant, Emily felt lighter. Justice had been served, and a brighter future awaited.